wow, this is nice to just be able to gaze out upon all these wonderful people. Thank you for coming. My name is Peter. That's my Christian name. I go by P.A.N. often at Center for Mindful Learning. We have two Peters, so we decided that I would become P.A.N., which is fun. Some people think Peter Pan because there's a youthfulness of some sort that seems to carry me around. That's what people tell me. But I like to go with Pan, the demigod from Greek mythology, who is a lover of summer and sunshine. And here we are on a beautiful day. And so it's always extra wonderful to see folks come out on a day like today, because you could be outside running around having a barbecue or whatever else, but you decided to come here. So I'm really grateful to see you, and it's really wonderful to be here and have you here and sharing this experience. So some of you saw the email that went out. Today we're going to be looking into a practice that I came up with recently. I haven't quite figured out a name for it. At first we were thinking maybe it would be called crazy labeling. Maybe it would be called chaos labeling. Maybe after today there'll be an even better name for it that will emerge from who knows where. But really what we're going to delve into is kind of existing within a world that has a lot going on, a lot of sensory phenomena, and also a lot of suffering. This is something that is fundamental to our existence as humans, is that unfortunately there's suffering out there. And fortunately, we have both wonderful friends and community, but we also have a practice that can really help us to make the world a better place and to help reduce the pain and suffering that is very abundant in the world, both in ourselves and in others. It's a very powerful statement. It seems simple, we can use our practice to reduce suffering, but when you really stop and take a look at that, it's like, wow, that's profound. There is hurt in the world, and we have something that we can concretely do, something that we can actually do to make it better. That's something to be really grateful for. And I look at practice in that way. So here we are in 2016 in the United States of America, and it's very interesting. There's a lot of emphasis on the benefits of contemplative practice now. Really exciting in a lot of ways. There's a yoga studio on every corner, they say. Big businesses are starting to have mindfulness meditation, and it's been called the mindfulness movement. It's happening. It's really exciting, but it's also been criticized. My view on it is that it's really a good thing that there is so much talk about mindfulness now. You open up Time magazine and it's like, wow, here's the Dalai Lama. You open up Scientific American and there's new studies coming out about these previously dismissed as old superstition mythology practices that are now being proven to be very transformative as we learn more about neuroscience and brain elasticity. The wisdom of the ancients is now being proven. And one of the wonderful things about folks in this community is that we are, I believe, ahead of the curve. We have a deeper understanding of practice that transcends simply reducing stress or being slightly more productive at work. We see the bigger picture about how this meditation practice and having mindfulness infused into our lives can actually revolutionize everything about the world, how we're seeing it, how we're thinking, how we're behaving, how we're actually building the structures that either are in harmony with the world and with life and with nature and are helping people and are addressing suffering, or if we're not in touch with ourselves, if we don't have a practice, we end up with systems based out of fear, systems based out of greed, out of division, and we see where that takes us. We live in a very interesting and exciting time, in my opinion, a very pivotal time, with great opportunity and great threat as well. So we've come a long way evolutionarily from a single-celled organism evolving, growing, changing. Suddenly we were humans, and then in what seems like the blink of an eye evolutionarily, rapid progress in terms of technology, the ability to communicate with each other, to convey information over the entire world at the touch of a button. It's rapidly happening, and so there happens to be, that's what we have arisen into. We just find ourselves in the midst of this chaos, this change, this rapidly moving, exciting new world. It's like, whoa, oh my gosh. When I was a kid, it's like we didn't have smartphones, you know? And it's like, how can we just think about that? When you were a kid, you know, even if you're 75 years old, that's 75 years even, is the tiniest fraction of time when you look at the entire span of evolutionary history. It's mind-boggling. And we haven't really quite figured out how to deal with all this stuff yet. So we're in a chaotic world, and yet there's this great promise. We could create medicines that will help to ease the suffering of those who are sick. We can share information, educate people. We have some promising things have arisen in the world. Globally, there's been great progress with, say, the United Nations, looking at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the banning of chemical and biological warfare. Even you look at this country, we've seen great strides recently. Gay marriage is now legal. Solar energy is becoming more and more and more efficient every year. It's going up and up in terms of how well it works, and it's becoming cheaper and cheaper. So we have this really exciting world unfolding before us, but yet at the same time we're in a place of immaturity yet as a species. We lack deep wisdom and insight, and as a result we have nuclear warheads that can destroy the world 100 times over. We have global warming that could wipe us all out within 100 years if we keep up the rate of pollution that we're doing. We have systems that are based on fossil fuels, mass agriculture, and we have disease, you know, the threat of disease spreading rapidly because of our interconnected, interwoven systems and our crowded cities, and our simply rapidly mushrooming and expanding population. We have all of these challenges at the same time. So it's an incredibly exciting time, but there's so much going on. And we stand, I think, on the precipice of either greatness or disaster. And that's where we're at. That's what we've arisen into. You know, we didn't ask for it, but we got it. So what is there to do, you know? And that's a lot. That's a lot. It's interesting that we have a grasp on that. And I don't think most of even our human ancestors have really, I don't think they've fully comprehended how important they are in the historical context. Just the fact that we can go vote is huge. We have more of a say in what the government does than humanity has throughout most of history. So it's an exciting time. I want to read to you this definition of compassion, and this came up in our recent retreat. I believe it was during Peter Park, the other Peter resident, is very attuned with suffering and compassion, and I really admire him for that. And so I'm kind of stealing this definition, which he probably, I don't think it's unique to him or to anybody else. It's probably been talked about in different traditions and certainly in contemplative practice in Buddhism. But compassion is standing with all of the suffering of the world and not turning away from that suffering in fear, and also not getting pulled into that suffering in despair. So we've got this suffering. It's both within us and without us, or outside of us. And gosh, it's easy to run away. It's easy to go turn on the Netflix or pick up a bottle or whatever else. So we can run. We can have this aversion. Or we can get pulled into it. We can find ourselves in this state of being completely overwhelmed. Oh my God, there's kids starving in Africa, and there's animals running around who don't have homes, and there's factory farming and global warming, and it's like, oh, suddenly you're just overwhelmed by the suffering. And that's very real. So how do we find ourselves in a space where we can be with that suffering and not run away from it, not hide from it, but face it head on, but also not get so lost in it that we wilt and wither? That's a real challenge. Unfortunately, that same way of being, that way of existing and allowing, but not getting caught up in and lost in, that's exactly what meditation practice is. You're following your breath, and it's like a thought arises. It's like, oh, the thought of freshly baked cookies. I can almost smell the cookies. Oh man, I remember the cookies. I remember the cookies that my mom used to make. My mom makes wonderful cookies. Some people at CML have been privy to her care packages. And see, now suddenly I'm talking about cookies. I'm not talking about meditation. Or we get upset and we just, oh gosh, like I have thoughts. Get out of here. Thoughts, you just get away. I'm supposed to be meditating. I'm the meditator. I'm not the thought thinker. We were like pushing them away. We were mad at the thoughts. And the same is essentially true with the situation. So the outer world that we're dealing with is the same with suffering, and the inner practice of meditation reflects that. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I get a little animated. There we go. I used to be in theater. Which kind of brings me to my next point. I spent a lot of my life as an activist. I was a grassroots organizer. I did advocacy work. I worked for organizations like the National Wildlife Federation, Conservation Voters. I did elections. And I found a lot of goodness in that, but I really realized that something is missing in that world, and people are really prone to burnout. Really, really common to see people get into that scene and then they're, oh gosh, fresh out of college, you change the world, and then in a couple of years they're just wiped out. And so this contemplative practice that we have, this mindfulness, is so useful for being in that space where we can allow the suffering to be, we can be with the suffering, we can be there doing good things in the world, and yet we cannot be crushed by it. And so I came to CML and it's like, wow, Center for Mindful Learning, this place is amazing, there's this community, and I've really been enjoying it. I just got recently got my what I call my death day, which is my 1-year anniversary of being at CML. When I let the parts of me die that are no longer serving me, that kind of thing. Or there's other ways to get into the death metaphor. But anyway, I'm like, oh, happy death day. And but I was sort of a point of a personal reflection because you know, I realized, and sort of has gotten at this point too with me very directly. And, you know, it's important to confront where you're at in life and what you're doing with your life, and really ask yourself, you know, am I doing the right thing? I may be doing something that's okay, that's good. I may be doing something that's like not necessarily terrible. You know, I'm not working for the U.S. military as a drone strike pilot, shooting missiles and wiping out innocent people. I'm not, you know, back in my hometown, North Dakota, participating in oil drilling and harming the environment and creating impacts in that way. So I'm not necessarily doing something that's like what I would consider blatantly bad, but I also think that for me, I really want to be doing what's really good, like is the best I can be doing, you know. So I've been reflecting on that. I'm like, is this the best thing, or am I in some way getting into that turning away, the fear? You know, am I living as an excuse to turn away from the suffering and leave the world behind and just become a hermit of some sort? And so it's been great. I'm really glad that I kind of pushed myself on this, because what's been happening is I've been having more and more kind of realizations about why having a mindfulness practice is so important to transforming the world. And I'm certainly by no means the first one to think this up, but it's just been becoming more and more real for me. I've been kind of like having these little flashes of insight about the ways that this practice is transformative. So I've been gathering them into lists, as I like to do, kind of a like thought hoarder, if you will. I like create these Google Docs, and they're just, I don't know, they pile up, but sometimes they're useful. So go with it. So just thinking about how does this practice making the world a better place, and there's of course the basic foundation of, as we change ourselves from within, that is going to be reflected out into the world in all of our actions and everything we do. People will pick up on that and sense that within us, and what we, you know, how we live our lives will be transformed by what's going on within us in our practice. So that's kind of the basic foundation, but you know, that's not quite satisfactory. So one of the reasons that we have so much suffering is due to this sort of endless need to fulfill our preferences and our desires and these old patterns that within us exist. And in order to fulfill and satiate these cravings that we have, we're willing to do a lot. We're willing to do a lot of bad things, sadly. And we're also willing to forego doing good things. I've had examples in my own life. Back when I was doing the activist work, there was a time where I was smoking quite a few cigarettes as I was really, going through stress. I didn't have a mindfulness practice. I was smoking cigarettes. And I was willing to smoke a cigarette knowing that it was extremely harmful to my body. It was ruining other people's lives and my own. And it was just this horrible thing to do. But yet, I had this pattern within me, this craving, this desire, that was really powerful. And so it's really easy to see in that example how this affects our lives. We're willing to cut down the rainforest because we really want to have a 99-cent cheeseburger at McDonald's. And the beef that they are using is coming from pasture land that's in what used to be the Amazon rainforest. But, gosh, those food scientists have really figured out ways to get into our heads and make us really want those burgers. And so this principle, as you look deeper and deeper into yourself, what I found is that it runs really deep. There are so many subtle ways in which I don't do the right thing because I have either seen or hidden patterns within me that are based on sort of usually based on wanting something, but also again, sometimes based on fear of something, I think of being on the schoolyard and you see that another kid is getting bullied. When you're a kid, you see that this kid is getting bullied, and you want to do something, but you're afraid that you would get bullied too, so you allow it to go along. And then there are many other aspects of bullying that I don't pretend to be an expert in any way, but it's that kind of thing where it's you have this subtle fear, you know it's right, but the fear pushes you away from doing what's right. So it seems to be that usually when we don't do the right thing, it's from these deep-rooted sort of patterns that exist within us that we've accumulated in different ways and built up and had reinforced through society and through experiences we've had. And then society gets built around those, it's we have the nuclear weapons because we were afraid of the Soviets and we wanted to be secure, and we wanted to have power so that we could have, more security, also more money. We wanted the money so that we could have big mansions. It's we wanted the security so we would not have, we could assuage those fears. And again, this is kind of a simplification, but really this concept is fundamentally at the heart of why we act out in so many ways that are not very kind to others. Wow, that was depressing. But there's we have our practice. Good news, yes, absolutely, yeah. So we have this practice, which the practice allows us to surface those patterns and to break them down. As the patterns arise, we stay with a focus space. And as we stay with the focus space, we become aware of the patterns. Sometimes we weren't even aware that we had these unconscious forces pushing and pulling at us. And so the patterns arise, but then we have attention, we have relaxed, focused, concentration, and equanimity. It's okay, patterns, you can just be there, but I'm not going to give you any, I'm not going to give you my focus. I'm not going to push you away out of out of fear and anger at you, then I'm not going to get sucked into you. I'm just going to be here, and I'm going to do what I've set out to do, which is practice and meditate. The patterns cannot survive that. Sometimes they go kicking and screaming. Sometimes they just melt away. But they start to break up. And when that happens, we're liberated from them. We're no longer slaves to these patterns that push and pull us. We can make whatever choice we want, including the choice to do the right thing, after we've allowed these patterns to break up. So it's a real blessing. And in addition to that, we're practicing something that is the opposite of both the fear in society that creates us to creates decisions and systems that divide us, that create militaries and conflicts and paranoia, neighbor against neighbor, as well as the grasping, the greed, the wanting to have, absurd luxury and being obsessed with comfort. As we break up these patterns within ourselves, then we can see them in society, and we're no longer bound by them. We no longer need to have that cheeseburger. We could maybe choose to have it if we really thought that, hey, this is what is best, and for whatever reason, maybe it's a special treat, or for whatever reason you choose to go to McDonald's, we can choose to do that, but we're not just caught up in this chaos within us. We're not just pulled into it. And that's really nice. And it's really good for the world. So it's nice, it's good for us, and it's nice for suffering. So it's pretty win-win. Yeah, and then the other thing that happens in that process too, that I find almost unexpected, but really, really meaningful, is that there's just this, as we let go and break up this negativity that's holding us back, then we have room within us, and there's something like this spaciousness, this openness, this liberation. And I find myself that can be filled with a sense of love, with a sense of freedom, sense of openness, and it's just this amazing added benefit. It's wow, this is great. But there's some other really important ways too that I think meditation has really transformative power. Meditation, I believe, can be a great uniter in the world. We have a practice that can be done anytime, anywhere, by anybody. And I should make a little caveat that there is privilege involved with this. We have the time to come and gather. A lot of people, maybe they're not in that situation where they have the freedom. Maybe they're incarcerated in prison. They can't come to this sit. Maybe they're working 3 jobs because they are a single mom. They can't necessarily come here. So there is that caveat. I don't want to say that this is completely without privilege. However, overall, we're looking at something that goes beyond race, class, gender, sexual orientation, creed. This can be done by anybody, anywhere in the world. Most religions already have some form of meditation built into them. So it can be very applicable to most religions already. And culturally, it's becoming more and more accepted. So we have this opportunity for everybody to participate, anybody who wants to. And that you don't really find that. It can be translated into any language. It's simple. It's beyond language. Language is something that in many ways divides us. So it transcends language and is universal in that context. that's really great. There's not a lot that I know of that is so so intrinsic in the human experience that it can just be done anywhere, anytime. And it's also beyond the sort of materialism and the grasping aspect, and also the fear aspect. You know, it doesn't really cost anything. You don't have to have the latest and greatest big screen TV or you know, the fancy whatever, you know, luxury yacht or something to do this. You just, it's not about getting, it's about letting go. So it's very very uniting in that sense. And it also builds discipline both internally and externally. I mean, just the fact that you guys came here for this shows that you have discipline. You're building the discipline of, you know, maybe you'd like to just hang out and turn on the TV, but you actually came here. That's discipline. Also doing the practice, the discipline of coming back to your focus space, coming back again and again. You're building that discipline so that that way when you have a situation where you're on the schoolyard and the bully is being really mean, then maybe, just maybe, you will stand up for them. Or you'll tell an adult, and you'll make a decision that that discipline will come into play. And yeah, and just the insight that comes from this practice, as I mentioned, you know, it's like there's this love that arises, there's this sense of interconnectivity. It's all universal, so we can find universalism there. So enough talking. Talking's fun, but so is practicing. So we'll do some practicing as well. So I'm going to kind of take you on a trip through a few different sense modalities and a technique based on basic mindfulness, which is a system that was originally created by Shinzen Young that is a really great system of practice. And we'll go through a few different forms of the traditional basic mindfulness, and then we'll delve into mindful chaos and see what that's all about. And then finally, we'll kind of wrap it up with a grounding practice. So let's go ahead and take a moment to come back to our bodies, check in with posture. As Shinzen likes to say, straightening up, settling in. Allow yourself to turn towards the sounds in the room. Direct your attention to any sounds that you may be hearing. Sound of the wind, or the sound of the person next to you, sound of your breath. Or the inner voice, auditory sounds, thoughts. Any sound that you hear. Focusing on whatever sound happens to come to you. Whatever sound arises right here. in this moment. And when you notice a sound, try saying in your mind, hear, or hearing. Each time a sound arises, even the sound of my voice, you can say to yourself, hear, or hearing. Using the label hear or hearing. Begin to develop, if you like, a rhythm. It might sound something like hear, 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 hear. It might also sound something like hearing, 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 hearing. Get into a rhythm that works for you. Always coming back to the sounds around you or the sounds within you. Good. Now shift your attention to physical sensations within your body. You may notice the feel of your feet on the floor, tightness or relaxation. You may also experience emotional sensations, emotional feelings. Keep your awareness on what you feel. Each time that you notice a sensation, a feeling, label it. feel it. Or label it feeling. As you continue to observe the feelings that you're experiencing and label them as either feel or feeling, try creating a rhythm with each label, each feel or feeling. The rhythm might sound something like feel, 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 feel. Or it might sound something like feel, 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 feel. Try using this rhythm to label each feeling that arises. Good. Now turn your attention to visual phenomena, things that you see. If you like, you can try opening your eyes for this portion. Each time something that arises in your field of vision, label it see or seeing. This could be something that you see if you have your eyes open around you, or it could be something that you're seeing in your mind's eye on that screen that you have. Pay attention to the things you're seeing and label them see. And as you continue to pay attention to visual phenomena, try creating a rhythm with your labeling. It might sound like see, 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 see. Or maybe it sounds like seeing, 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 seeing. Experiment with creating a rhythm with your labeling. Keeping your attention on seeing. Good. Now open your field of awareness to hearing, feeling, and seeing. If you like, you can keep this practice with your eyes open. And again, each time that you hear, label hear or hearing. Each time that you feel something, feel or feeling. And each time that you see something, apply the label see or seeing. And allow your attention to shift between seeing, hearing, and feeling, however it wants to. And again, try building a rhythm. It might sound like see, feel, see, feel, hear, feel, see, feel, hear, see, feel. Hear, see, feel, see, feel, see. Good. Continue to observe auditory, visual, and physical or emotional sensations. However, instead of keeping the labels of see, hear, and feel, or see, hearing, seeing, hearing, and feeling, now open yourself up to more detailed labels. Describe exactly what you are experiencing. If you're seeing a yellow circle, say in your inner voice, yellow circle. If you're seeing shiny, wooden, bright light, say that. If you're hearing annoying dog, shifting, shuffling, inner voice, mashing sound, use that as your label. If you're feeling physical warmth, butt, warmth, leg, foot, shiver, nervous, shiver, warm, That's your label. Whatever experience you're having, describe it to yourself in detail. Stay present with it and describe it. White collar, smile, feel happy, sound, wondering how much, seeing. As you're describing, use whatever detail comes to your mind. Don't feel like you need to complete each sentence or each description before moving on to the next. If a new sensory phenomena arises midway through a sentence or even through a word, start describing that. White sock, sunshine, sock, warm, warm. Hearing birds, birds, seeing birds in mind's eye, birds, black sock, warm, warm, tripod, parents, warm, black, cookies, warm, warm, back, warm, posture, black, cookies. Stay with it, describe whatever is happening. If thoughts are running through your mind, let them be your description. If you're feeling something in your body, describe it. What does it feel like? Where do you feel it? How does it feel? Are you seeing something? What does it look like? And then back to feeling something, and then hearing something, and then hearing something else, and then feeling, and seeing, feeling. You can use those labels too if you like to go back to seeing and hearing and feeling, or you can keep describing it. Blue cord, wondering what it's doing. Blue cord, eye mask, I'm plastic, don't like plastic, don't like seeing dress, dress, rose, friend, dress, rose, questioning, wondering, feeling, unsure, what time, feeling, seeing, sock, black sock, lots of socks, gray. I've been talking about socks a lot. Gray pants, gray, Danny, gray pants, yoga, mala, beads. Keep going. Stay with it. Observe the chaos of your mind. Hair, birds, hearing birds, seeing. Laura, seeing Laura, beetles, wanting beetles. If you start getting overwhelmed, feel free to go back to the previous labels of see, hear, and feel. But try diving deeply and staying present with each chaotic thought, each chaotic sensory experience, seeing, feeling, waiting for music, seeing, toenail painted, beautiful color, like color. More chaos arises both from within and from without. Keep going. Hearing, feeling, wondering, oh my God, what is going on? Warm. Feeling, immersed, wondering, oh man, feeling sorry, warm, thinking bread, loaf of bread. Hearing laughter, seeing, smiling, seeing. Stay mindful, stay present with each experience. What is this like to be in this chaos? See, feel, see. Each new moment, stay with it. Brown pants, pockets, thinking back to the 90s. What is going on in your mind? Just stay with it. If it's too much, just go back to normal basic labeling. And try to describe it. Tripod, try describing it, saying, oh, the Zendokan. Sweating hands, feeling legs, warm, posture, lotus pose. I want to sit in lotus pose someday. I haven't really done that. Seeing, electrical cord, think of time, not knowing, seeing. Enjoying, seeing, feeling, smiling. Oh, feels a little strange, but I'm just going to go with it. Stay with your experience. Whatever is arising, that's okay. It may be crazy, it may be weird, you may not like it, you may love it, it may be great. Keep with it, stay with it, give it a shot, see it, hear it, feel it, describe it, go with it. Seeing, fear, smiling, happy, weirdness, not knowing what, did I make a right choice? Seeing yellow color, sunshine, lovely sunshine, dogs, lions, seeing wood, warmth, hands, sweating, socks, sweating, feeling, nipple, warmth, itching, back, posture, looking around, seeing, mouth. Continue with the practice now. You can go back to normal labeling of see, hear, feel, or if you like, keep trying this chaos labeling, diving in, swimming through the waters of the madness of experience, forcing yourself to be fully present, fully seeing and describing each new phenomena that arises, each new sight, each new sound, fully describing it, and then letting it go immediately. And then moving on to the next moment, the next thing, the next pair of jeans, the next fingernail, the next dry mouth wanting water. Complete equanimity with anything that's going on within you or without you. Simply observing it, examining it, being with it, and then letting it go. Letting it wash over you. Whatever experience arises, be it heaven or hell, see it, hear it, feel it, and then move on. Good, good. If you'd like, you can continue labeling. See, hear, feel, or chaos labeling. But I invite you now to try something completely different. Try using the phrase, I am here. I am present. I have arrived. Practice simply being here. Don't worry about all the complicated details. Let go of everything that's happened so far. And simply exist in whatever way feels comfortable. Be present. Right now. Be here right now. Whatever way works for you, whatever's happening for you, just be with it. There's no need to try and categorize it. There's no need to try and label it. You don't have to try and describe it. Just exist. And you can say, I'm here. This is right now. This moment. Right now. Right here. This is my experience. If you'd like to use those labels, you can, but really just be. staying present, staying aware, but letting yourself just be. Keeping your attention focused on simply existing. If your mind starts to wander, bring it back. Tell yourself, this is my experience. This is my life, right here. This moment right here. Stay with the moment and simply exist. Good. For the last few minutes of the practice tonight, make a decision. Will you go back to the see, hear, or feel techniques? Maybe you'll go with all three techniques, seeing, hearing, and feeling all at once. Or will you go with the chaos, crazy labeling, describing each phenomena as it arises and then letting it go? Or will you choose to remain in the state of simply existing while shining the light of awareness on this moment? Choose one of those techniques and really give it your all for these last few minutes.